Hey guys, what's up? Once again welcome to Movie Buzz Limited. The show's protagonist is a strange girl named Wednesday Addams. Despite being only 13 years old, the young girl displays few emotions and has an odd obsession with death. She is also well known for wearing black and white gothic clothing, which everyone finds odd. Wednesday arrives at her high school with a creepy expression on her face in the first scene. Within her she discovers her brother, Pugsley, bound with an apple in his mouth, in his locker. As she pushes him away, Wednesday has a vision in which she sees who tortured her brother. Here, we learn that she is not a typical child. Wednesday has the ability to see someone's past and future simply by touching them. She walks into the swimming room with 2 bags full of piranhas after discovering that a group of bullies from the swim team is behind this. Then she casually lets the bloodthirsty piranhas loose in the pool. As the bullies flee in terror, Wednesday declares that nobody picks on her brother except her. In the following scene, we meet Wednesday's parents, Morticia and Gomez. They've had enough of their daughter's misbehavior and have decided to send her to the prestigious Nevermore Academy. It turns out that all of the students at this academy have supernatural abilities, and they are taught how to control them. Morticia and Gomez are both graduates of the same academy, implying that they, too, have superpowers. Meanwhile, a hiker sets out on his own through the woods near Nevermore Academy. Unfortunately, an unknown creature attacks him and kills him after only a few minutes. Later, the local sheriff discovers the mutilated body and begins surveying the area. Surprisingly, we learn that this heinous murder isn't the first of its kind. There have been numerous similar incidents in recent years. Wednesday then arrives at the academy and meets Principal Larissa Weems, who runs Nevermore with ease. She introduces her to her roommate, Enid, a werewolf who is in every way the polar opposite of Wednesday. Enid is a laid-back girl with brightly colored decorations on her side of the room, whereas Wednesday is obsessed with all things black and goth. Later, Enid takes Wednesday on a grand tour of the academy, pointing out the 4 major school groups: Fangs, Furs, Stoners, and Scales. Stoners are gorgons with snakes on their heads, Fangs are vampires, Furs are werewolves, Scales are sirens with the power to seduce. Enid also introduces her to Bianca Barkley, the most popular student in the school, and her ex-boyfriend Xavier Thorpe, a self-described death artist who can make his pictures come to life. In the meantime, as the Addams family drives away, Gomez releases Thing, an alive hand with one hand sliced off. Thing has the responsibility of watching over their daughter. The next day, Wednesday enrolls in a fencing lesson where she competes against the skillful Bianca. The girls decide to take off their masks and fight till one of them bleeds first. After some back and forth results in an equal number of points for each. Soon enough, a vicious fight breaks out between them as they match strides for strides. But when Bianca makes a tiny gash on Wednesday's face, she ultimately succeeds in her mission. Wednesday is later nearly killed by a falling stone gargoyle as she leaves the hospital after receiving treatment. Fortunately, the death artist, Xavier, moves her out of the way when he comes just in time. Wednesday goes back to her room shortly after, but she feels like someone is keeping an eye on her. She consequently looks around the space and eventually discovers the hand, Thing. When Wednesday realizes her parents are to blame, she threatens to lock the hand in a drawer until he stays faithful to her. Thing declares his loyalty while being terrified. She is required to attend treatment because of the piranha practical joke on Wednesday. Larissa, the principal, drives her to Jericho, a small town outside of Nevermore, for her therapy appointment. When she meets with her therapist, she remains silent. Wednesday, however, has something else in mind. She excuses herself and leaves through the window after using the restroom. When she exits, she unintentionally bumps into a man. Suddenly, she has a vision in which she sees the man being killed. Wednesday enters a nearby coffee establishment with fear. There, she runs into Tyler, a barista who also happens to be the son of the sheriff. The espresso machine Tyler uses is having some mechanical issues. Thankfully, Wednesday can read Italian despite the strange Italian language of the directions. She fixes the device with ease and then requests a ride to the closest bus stop in exchange. Before Tyler can respond, though, 3 bullies in pilgrim costumes barge into the store and startle her. When Wednesday can no longer take it, she fights back and easily knocks them down. Wednesday tries to ignore them. Principal Larissa and the sheriff eventually make their way to the business, where they witness the carnage. She yells at Wednesday and drives her out of town after becoming enraged. They travel by a catastrophic vehicle accident on their way to the academy. The victim is the same man Wednesday had earlier seen in a vision. Later that evening, she performs a melancholy cello melody on the balcony of the dorm. There are numerous werewolves howling in the distance on this full moon night. Enid, a werewolf herself, announces that she will not be joining them because she is unable to change. Thing stops by Tyler's room in the meantime and requests a call for Wednesday. Despite being afraid, he agrees, and they immediately begin video chatting. Wednesday says it will be great, and she wants Tyler to meet her at the harvest fair the next day. She really just wants to get out of the academy, though. We witness Larissa keeping a close eye on Wednesday while at the fair. Despite this, the young goth somehow catches up to Tyler. The two are on the verge of leaving when Wednesday accidentally runs into Rowan, one of her classmates. Since Wednesday touched him, she has a vision in which Rowan has been viciously mauled to death by someone. He flees into the woods right away. She changes her mind and pursues him to break the news after becoming terrified. Rowan secures her high up on a tree using telekinesis before she has a chance to speak. Then he says that his mother, a gifted seer, had seen Wednesday destroying the Nevermore Academy 25 years earlier. Rowan thinks that in order to prevent anything awful from happening, he must kill her. He then begins telekinetically strangling her, when all of a sudden, a huge monster bursts in, rips Rowan to pieces, and disappears into thin air. Wednesday looks at the drawing of his mother that she allegedly created while standing over his dismembered remains. The sheriff and other police officers start looking for Rowan's body shortly after, but they are unsuccessful. As was to be predicted, the sheriff doubts Wednesday's claim that a monster attacked Rowan and believes it was actually an Evermore student. When an officer interrupts their discussion, we unexpectedly encounter Rowan, who is still very much alive. When Wednesday gets to her room, she observes that Enid is too absorbed in the Po-Cup competition, a yearly boat riding contest. She tries to talk to Rowan later but is told by the principal Larissa that he has been expelled for a reason she is unable to disclose. As a result, Wednesday switches to Plan B and requests that Thing watch over Rowan. The action then shifts to Rowan arriving at the railway station with Thing hot on his heels. He sneaks into the bathroom after taking in his surroundings and assumes the appearance of an elderly guy. Sadly, Thing gets distracted and misses this metamorphosis. Later, he takes on the identity of Principal Larissa. This exposes that she is actually a shapeshifter who is trying to cover up Rowan's death for whatever reason. Without any other choices, Wednesday searches the woods for signs of Rowan's murder. Tyler, who is after his father, is traveling with her. She eventually locates Rowan's glasses, and as she lifts them up, a vision strikes her. She sees a purple book in the vision where Rowan acquired the drawing. Wasting no time. When Wednesday questions her teacher about the book, she learns that it belonged to the Nightshades, a former student organization. But the society has long since been abolished. Wednesday sneaks into Rowan's room after school to look for the book. Under his bed, she discovers a mask, but Xavier shows there before she can leave. He is, in fact, Rowan's roommate. As soon as Bianca arrives to see her ex, Wednesday instantly hides under the bed. She hears them talking, and finds out that Bianca intends to humiliate Enid in the forthcoming boat riding competition. So, as soon as she gets back to her room, Wednesday makes the decision to support Enid by entering the contest so that they can defeat Bianca. Wednesday and Enid prepare for the competition the next day. Because there are no rules, everything is fair game, which Bianca is taking advantage of. The game consists of 4 teams rowing their boats to a destination and returning. The winner is whoever is the first to cross the finish line without being knocked out in the lake. As the competition begins, Bianca teases one of her friends, who is planning to sabotage the other boats. The friend, who turns out to be a mermaid, dives into the lake and destroys one of the boats, effectively knocking out the team. Fortunately, Wednesday and Enid are prepared, and with Thing's assistance, they manage to capture the mermaid. Wednesday, on the other hand, has a different vision during the competition. This time, she sees a blonde-haired version of herself, who informs her that she is the key. Wednesday regains consciousness, only to discover that Bianca's team has taken the lead in the race. She and Enid, unable to give up, decide to play dirty. They use Bianca's dirty tricks against her and eventually win the competition. For the first time in 4 decades, a non-siren team has won the prestigious competition. Later, Principal Larissa honors the winning team by handing Enid the Poe Cup trophy. Wednesday, however, is overwhelmed by the attention and seeks refuge with Edgar Allan Poe, a former student of the Nevermore Academy. She notices a symbol beneath the stone book he's holding. It's the same symbol Rowan had carved in the picture he'd given her before he was mauled to death. Wednesday quickly solves a series of riddles written in the book and discovers a clue, snapping twice. When she snaps twice, a secret corridor suddenly opens, revealing a hidden chamber. Wednesday successfully locates Rowan's book, from which he tore the picture. She stuffs the book into her backpack, but before she can go any further, a black sack is thrust over her head. When the sack is removed shortly after, she finds herself in the company of Bianca, Xavier, and a few other Nightshades Club members. Although the group had previously been disbanded, Principal Larissa secretly reinstated it. Xavier invites Wednesday to join their group, but she declines and walks away. In the following scene, Principal Larissa announces the annual Outreach Day, during which the Nevermore students will be required to interact with normal people, also known as normies, by working alongside them at their establishments. Wednesday informs Xavier that his roommate may have been murdered once they arrive in town. Rowan is not dead, according to the latter, because he was only expelled. Despite this, Wednesday shows him Rowan's mother's drawing. Xavier examines it closely and discovers that the man in the picture is the founder of Jericho, Joseph Crackstone. Wednesday later decides to volunteer in the Pilgrim World, the site of Jericho's history. Eugene, a young boy she befriended in the beekeeping club, meets her there. The two begin talking right away and begin observing their surroundings. Miss Arlene, the Pilgrim World's caretaker, approaches the students soon after. She gives them a tour and tells them about some of Joseph Crackstone's most prized possessions. Wednesday inquires further about the artifacts and discovers that they contain original farm tools, tableware, and even the family chamber pot. She wants to work there but is unable to due to renovations. Instead, they'll all be working at the Ye Old Fudgery, distributing fudge and cakes to local tourists. Later, Wednesday sneaks into the Crackstone family chamber with the help of Eugene. She discovers a painting of the old meeting house that depicts the girl from her vision. Soon after, she discovers the book that the girl was carrying. But Wednesday is suspicious that it's a fake when she sees that the pages are blank. Arlene, the nanny, shows in at that same moment and catches her. Arlene reluctantly admits that the original book was taken last month when Wednesday inquires about it. At the coffee cafe, Tyler and Wednesday meet up again later. Tyler responds to the second person's question regarding Joseph Crackstone by saying that what is left of the old meeting house is hidden away in the woods. Meth heads stay there because it is essentially a ruin and a crash pad. Wednesday and Thing immediately head into the woods in search of Joseph Crackstone's residence. When they find it, they come across a homeless man, but Thing chokes him and scares him away. Wednesday has a vision all of a sudden. She travels 400 years in the past this time. We see the blonde girl she met in her previous vision. Villagers are encircling the girl, referring to her as the devil's spawn. Soon after, Joseph Crackstone emerges from the crowd and addresses her as Goody Addams. He accuses her of witchcraft and sentences her to death in a barn with other accused people, including her mother. Goody, in turn, accuses them of stealing their land, slaughtering the innocent, and stealing their peaceful spirit. Enraged, Joseph stares at her for a while before setting fire to the barn. Goody tries to free her mother, but her efforts are futile. Finally, when there is no hope left, she escapes through a trapdoor. Meanwhile, Wednesday is watching everything with them in the barn. Goody soon approaches her and declares that Joseph will not stop his crusade until he has killed them all. With this realization, Wednesday awakens from her long vision and tells Thing everything. They are startled to see the same monster that killed Rowan lurking behind them. Wednesday chases it down in the rain but is unable to keep up. As a result, she follows the footprints, which strangely begin to resemble human footprints. This reveals the monster's true identity as a human. She then runs into Xavier and tells him what she witnessed. He wants to examine the tracks, but the rain has washed them away. The next day, everyone gathers in the town square for the unveiling of a new statue honoring Joseph Crackstone. While the mayor and Larissa announce the statue, Wednesday performs an instrumental version of Fleetwood Mac's Don't Stop with the Jericho Marching Band. However, disaster strikes when Thing, in accordance with Wednesday's orders, sets fire to the statue. While others flee in terror, Wednesday's eyes gleam with vengeance as she plays the cello quickly. Later, Principal Larissa rips into Wednesday, suspecting she is to blame for the incident. However, the adolescent denies doing anything and instead confronts Larissa for refusing to acknowledge the bloody, racist truths upon which Jericho was built. The homeless man from before gets assaulted by the monster that night, and his camera starts recording the event. The homeless man is discovered dead when the sheriff and his team reach the forest ruin shortly after their arrival. They find video on his camera that might identify the offender. The sheriff views the killer's face, a creature out of nightmares, after developing the images. Beauty Girl gets back at her victims by letting piranhas into the pool.